What's going on, guys? My name is Steve. Thank you for stopping by my channel. Today we're going to be reacting to why are there no bridges in East London? I came across this video and the thumbnail definitely grabbed my attention. It seems like there's more than a dozen different bridges on one side of London, but on the other side, which I guess is East London, there doesn't seem to be any bridges at all. Like, how does that happen in a city the size of London? It just doesn't really make much sense. But anyways, guys, when I came across this video, I also noticed that this was Jay Foreman. I've reacted to one other of his videos a long time ago, and I know a lot of people have recommended his videos in the comments, saying he does really good videos around the London area specifically. But anyways, guys, I don't really know what to expect with this video because it just doesn't really make much sense that there wouldn't be any bridges on an entire side of a city the size of London. And you know, I know that river, what is it? River Thames is a pretty big river. So again, it really doesn't make a lot of sense why there wouldn't be bridges on the entire east side of London. So anyways, guys, let's go ahead and check out why there are no bridges on the east side of London.
In West London, you're spoilt for choice for ways to cross the River Thames. But in East London, the Thames is your wet nemesis. Your only options to cross are queue for ages for the Blackwall Tunnel, go the huge long way round and pay the toll for the Dartford crossing, or get seasick on the so slow it's literally never worth it Woolwich ferry. This gives poor East London quite the disadvantage. Despite the very short distance as the crow flies, if you live here, it's very unlikely you go to work or school or do your shopping or visit friends here, unless you're a crow. Greater London effectively operates like a Pac-Man with a wacka-wacka wide gap between these isolated communities. So how did London end up so unfairly asymmetrical? In other words, why is West London better than East London? Dun, 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 dun. Basically, there are three reasons why it's easier to build bridges in West London than East London. 1. Geography. In the west, the River Thames is a narrow, squiggly trickle where bridge building is easy. But by the time it gets to London Bridge, it becomes a wide, majestic estuary with massive tides and marshy floodplains. Lest we forget, the Romans built London Bridge where they did, specifically because it was the widest place they could build it. 2. Shipping. In the late 19th century, when London did most of its growing, it was the biggest shipping port in the world, making bridge building east of the ports practically impossible. The literally only bridge in East-ish London, Tower Bridge, was an incredible feat of construction. So impressive it merited its own episode. Its elaborate brute force engineering and massive cost were justified by its iconic location. A huge gateway to the heart of London for those arriving by...
Wow, I really want to look into this bridge, man. I haven't yet, really, but it's beautiful. It really is.
Boat. If they wanted to build any more bridges in East London, every one of them would have to be bigger or more complicated than Tower Bridge.
Wow.
That wasn't going to happen because 3. No demand. Historically, East London has always been poorer and more sparsely populated than West London, with no rich people to pay tolls and no important people to complain. So not only was it more effort to build crossings here, it wasn't worth the effort. However, that all started to change at the end of the 19th century. In the decades since the disastrous Thames Tunnel, the Victorians had learnt some lessons and had become rather good at digging. Having figured out how to build miles of railways underground, all they had to do was exactly the same thing under the river. So at the end of the 19th century, using the same technology as the Tube, London got its very first road tunnels, one at Blackwall and one at Rotherhithe.
That is so impressive when you really think about building a tunnel underneath a river. In any body of water, really, back, over 100 years ago. It's just, it's just amazing what humans can do when you really think about that. It's just, wow.
With demand still rising and East London's population still growing, these should have been the start of a tunnel revolution spreading eastwards along the Thames throughout the 20th century. So why didn't that happen? It's a story that's been told so many times I'm getting bored of it now. Basically, the war. First the First World War and second the Second World War put a stop to all big public projects. And when the wars were over, the money had run out, and it never really came back. And so, the 20th century saw pretty much no new river crossings in London. Apart from the Greenwich and Woolwich foot tunnels, which don't really count because they're just foot tunnels. Chiswick and Twickenham bridges, both part of the same road, opened on the same day.
Oh, there's foot tunnels underneath the river now. Okay. And so you do have a couple of bridges, it seems like. Okay. But still, yeah, that's not really that many.
In 1933, a second Blackwall Tunnel, which doesn't really count because it's just a widening of the first, and the Dartford Tunnel, which became two Dartford Tunnels, which became two Dartford Tunnels, and the QE2 Bridge, which also doesn't really count because it's in not London. London found itself frozen in this asymmetrical state for more than a century.
Wow, dude. That really is interesting. So mainly it's because a combination of not having enough money left over to just, after the wars. The river being much wider in here. And I can definitely see that. Look how skinny it is here. And then by the time it gets over here, it's just huge. And then 3 is just less populated, I guess. Okay. Makes sense. I mean, really, it does make sense. I mean, I'm sure that's kind of annoying for people that live here on the east.
This asymmetry gives the river a completely different character depending which side of London you're on. In the west, the river brings prosperity and flats with views and gastropubs and university boat races. But in the east, the river brings...
Wow.
By the end of the 20th century...
Wow, I want to appreciate that again, that difference, okay? So you see this, just a beautiful... It's very narrow here. A very simple bridge was able to be built right here, and you got people eating alongside it, and then you
and university boat
move
races.
up.
But in the east,
It's just
brings...
wow. What a difference, man.
By the end of the 20th century, the shipping industry that prevented any crossings being built here in the first place had all but disappeared, leaving behind a string of post-industrial literal dead ends, largely untouched by regeneration or your thoughts. The exception that proves the rule is Canary Wharf, which since the 80s has seen a rebirth as a business district full of Has no one ever thought to try to do anything to fix this? Yes, they have, ages ago. In the 1970s, plans were afoot for a long-awaited pill to close Pac-Man's...
So I want to ask this. So am I getting this correct that East London is the more industrial side of London, if you will? It seems like it's kind of, which kind of would make sense with the wider river being easier to ship out from or have, shipping ports or whatever. Just basically the way he was showing these, the two sides, the west versus east, it does seem like it's just a more industrial side of London. I really haven't looked at London in depth. I definitely want to at some point. Such an amazing city. It's such an important city when it comes to the UK, the world really, but specifically the UK. But this is definitely making me want to look more into it on a deeper level, to actually see the difference. What do you call them? Do you call them boroughs? Is that what they're called? But anyway, let's continue.
Mouth, the boringly named the East London River Crossing. By this time, technology had moved on, and bridges had once again overtaken tunnels as the more cost-effective way to get cars across a river. The bridge formed part of the notorious plans for new motorways in London called ringways.
Wow, look at that difference, man, seriously.
Side, the roads were more than ready for the arrival of the new bridge. You can clearly see on satellite view how the North Circular Road gapes expectantly open wide, ready to send and receive cross-river traffic. But on the south side, it's not clear at all where the traffic was meant to go.
Oh, wow.
The new bridge would have necessitated the construction of a huge 8-lane motorway, bulldozing hundreds of households out of the way. The people of Plumstead were understandably unhappy when the bridge got approval in 1985, but their bacon was rescued by an unlikely saviour. 2 years later, in 1987, the government accidentally built an international airport right next door to the site of the new bridge, which added a maximum height restriction on top of the already restrictive minimum height restriction. With the bridge needing a complete redesign, that meant going through the approval process all over again. And this time, it failed, and all thoughts of a crossing here were abandoned in 1993. But not for long. In 2004, the Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, proposed an upgrade, or downgrade depending how you look at it, on the same site. The slightly betterly named Thames Gateway Bridge. Ken's bridge was going to be a local bridge for local people. There would be just 4 lanes instead of 8, 2 of which would be bus lanes, which had the potential of being turned into an extension for the DLR. You can see on satellite view that Ken's bridge got quite far in the planning stages too. Just north of Galleon's Reach, there's a wide concrete flyover that stops mid-air where the connection to his new bridge was going to be. Environmentally speaking, it was a massive improvement on the monster from the 70s, but there was a major flaw in Ken's concept. A local bridge for local people was a very naive and completely impossible thing to enforce.
I'm reading this one, go away!
Ken's bridge could only have been local if it were one of many crossings in East London, so that travellers had lots of options, just like how it is in West London. But with East London so far behind, the Thames Gateway Bridge on its own would unavoidably have drawn cars and lorries from all over London, congesting and polluting the narrow residential streets of...
Oh, man, that's true. Oh, dude, people in these neighborhoods around here would hate that. I mean, it would be good at first because they'd have a crossing, but right near their house. But oh my goodness, all this traffic from everywhere else. Oh my, man, that wouldn't be good. Noise, pollution, just... Oh, man, yeah, that would, yeah. I don't know if that would be worth having the bridge right there.
Plumstead, which in many ways is worse than building a motorway.
Yeah.
The Thames Gateway Bridge was indeed designed to be joined later by the Belvedere Bridge and Silvertown Tunnel, but the locals knew that these complementary crossings wouldn't realistically have come to the rescue for decades, if they ever came at all. For that reason, the Thames Gateway Bridge was viewed as a cause of congestion, and for that reason it had almost no support politically or locally. And for that reason, when the next Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, came along, he took the popular and simple decision to scrap it.
Wait, Boris Johnson was the Mayor of London? Is that like, I guess that was before he became Prime Minister? I didn't know that. Okay.
It was a rather odd move for Boris, a man so famously fond of bridges. Perhaps he just didn't like it because it wasn't his idea. It's harder than ever to get big projects like bridges funded by the government and/or approved by the locals. That's why all the bridges built this century have been quite a pedestrian affair. So far, we've had the Millennium Bridge, which when first opened struggled to take the weight of pedestrians, and the Emirates Air...
Hold on, what'd that say? Hold on. Wobbly Millennium Bridge forced to close. Within minutes, the bridge was swayed under the sheer weight of... Oh, wow. You know, that's crazy, man. So it opened up and a bunch of people were starting to cross it, and just having foot traffic was causing this bridge to sway? Wow, man.
And the Emirates Airline, an expensive overbranded cable car / tourist non-attraction connecting nowhere to nowhere else, inexplicably featured on the tube map despite a grand total...
What is that called? Hold on, what was that called, man? That was pretty cool. What was that? It's like a chairlift.
Overbranded cable car / tourist, the Millennium Bridge, which when first opened struggled to take the weight of pedestrians, and the Emirates Airline, an expensive overbranded cable car / tourist non-attraction connecting nowhere to nowhere else, inexplicably featured on the tube map despite a grand total of regular users of 4. A few more pedestrian-only bridges have also been planned and not built. At Canary Wharf, Wandsworth, Pimlico, and most high-profile of all, the profoundly...
Hold on, what?
Pimlico...
Oh, this was... Okay, these were plans. That is an interesting-looking design, man. I don't really get the point in this design. I mean, I guess it gives you more time on over the water. I don't know.
And most high-profile of all, the profoundly unnecessary garden bridge, intended more for private parties and selfies than for travel, which...
Dude, that would be beautiful. Why didn't they build that? I think that would be amazing, a garden bridge. That'd be pretty cool, man.
Cost £53 million just to cancel. But these are tourist attractions at best and vanity projects at worst, and they're all in central London.
You guys have a chairlift in the middle of London.
Packmanity of Greater London, and are quite insulting to East Londoners. So now, 15 years after the Thames Gateway Bridge was cancelled, what's been put on the table to address this? The worst crossing ever proposed. Right next door to the Blackwall Tunnel, but at a jaunty angle, is the very controversially proposed Silvertown Tunnel. It's a very odd choice of location, given that it's one of the few parts of East London that already has lots of river crossings, and it's an even odder choice of mode. The Silvertown Tunnel is for motor traffic only, with no pedestrians, cyclists, or trains allowed.
Really, you need more tunnels or more bridges. You need more crossings across the river on the east side, but you're going to build one right where there's already other ones. Come on, that doesn't even make sense.
Its purpose is to reduce traffic in the Blackwall Tunnel, which we really should have learnt by now, in real life will encourage more car journeys than before and create more congestion in the whole Blackwall area. Public opinion is more anti-car than ever, which is why there's a massive campaign against the Silvertown Tunnel. And as for whether it'll ever be built, I don't know. It's a paradox. East London desperately needs connections, but East London desperately also needs not to be ruined by pollution and congestion. So what on earth could be the solution? There's actually a rather brilliant one. The two as yet unconnected East Londons are a great opportunity to create ambitious new non-car crossings for rail, trams, cycling and walking. Ignoring today's demand for new roads and instead providing for journeys that don't exist yet may seem daft and will certainly cause frustration for the first few years, but when the only option to cross is a clean, green, sustainable one, people will take the clean, green, sustainable one in their thousands, and the positive effect will spread well beyond the banks of this river. For proof of how brilliantly this phenomenon works, come with me now to West London.
In 2019, nasty cracks were found in the pedestals of Hammersmith Bridge, and the local council abruptly closed it to all traffic after 132 years of service.
Wow.
Understandably, many local drivers complained, saying it would cause traffic jams, and it did at first, but then an interesting thing happened.
When Hammersmith Bridge reopened in 2021, it assumed a new role as a quiet, pleasant and safe pedestrian and cycle bridge, which has encouraged more journeys by foot and by bike, reducing car journeys and traffic not just in Hammersmith but across West London.
What Hammersmith shows us is that what we choose to build, or indeed choose to don't build, affects how we choose or don't choose to travel. And that's the way round it should be. The tide is shifting, pun massively intended, in the right direction, away from cars.
The proposed Lower Thames crossing, a scheme to fight cars with cars to try to take traffic out of the Dartford Tunnel, has been roundly rejected by locals.
There's actually been rather a lot of progress for trains lately.
No fewer than 7 new rail crossings have appeared across the Thames in the last 25 years.
Wow.
And there are even more proposed for the future. There's a potential rail link to Thamesmead from the DLR or overground, but probably not both. There's the Kennex tram, a planned tram network around the riverside commuter towns in Kent and Essex linked by a tunnel, which is too far outside London to be taken seriously. And of course, the Elizabeth line is going to open, tomorrow. Well, it took 3 videos, but that's pretty much the whole history of the River Thames and how Londoners have crossed it, from the Romans to the present day.
I find it fascinating how much London's relationship with its river has changed over its long history. It's actually quite sad to think that what started out as a major highway and the lifeblood of London, saturated with boats of all different shapes and sizes, now spends most of its time sitting uselessly empty, a physical and mental barrier between North and South London. But will this trend, like so many others in London's evolving infrastructure, shift back the other way? Are there ways we could put our river to better use?
The Thames Clippers are starting to transform from an expensive novelty tourist attraction into a reliable commuter service. Maybe they have a future as a no-nonsense integrated part of the city's transport
Was that
network,
Uber
like how
boat?
it
Is
in
that what that
Sydney,
said?
or Brisbane, or Copenhagen, or San Francisco, or Zurich, or Hong Kong, or Amsterdam.
Yes,
Or maybe they'll go completely the other way and drain the River Thames and turn it into a park. It's not that far-fetched an idea. It's exactly what they did to the River Turia in Valencia in 1969, making
Really?
the city safer from flooding and opening up acres of new green space.
Nah, man, you can't get rid of the river, dude. Like, even if you're not really using it for, like, transportation for, goods and services anymore. I mean, still, man, the river is beautiful, man. I would personally, if I lived in London, I would want the river to stay. Obviously, he's just speculating. Obviously, they're not going to drain the river, but yeah.
Future technologies lie ahead in the next 1,000 years that could see our river once again becoming a major useful highway. The answer is coming in part 4.
Oh, this is part 3 of a series about this river. Okay. Guys, that was awesome. I learned a lot. I actually learned some things about the river. Is it Thames? I think the H is silent, so I think it's Thames. River Thames. I couldn't really picture why at the beginning, why this would be, why there wouldn't be any bridges, in East London. And obviously it's not, I was thinking no connections at all. That's what I was getting from the title and from the thumbnail. But obviously there are connections. It's just limited. But it doesn't really seem like there's many good options. I mean, and like you said, if all of a sudden you bring in more bridges, you're going to bring in more traffic to those surrounding areas. And those people aren't going to like that, the pollution, the noise. And also, like you said, maybe there'll be more, maybe put in a footbridge or something, more traffic for bikes and stuff. I got to say, obviously I don't live in a big city like London, nowhere close to it. I live in a pretty small town, actually. But I must say, if I lived in London, I don't think I would drive very much. I mean, I don't think it would, really be needed too much. If I'm leaving London, sure. But I think you could live pretty comfortably in a city like London without really owning a car, which is kind of cool. Like you're not needing to pay insurance, get maintenance, not having to worry about gas prices and all this other stuff. But it would be really weird to me because, well, no, I I actually, one other time in my life, I sold my vehicle. So we sold both our cars at the time when we went overseas and to Asia, and we were planning on being gone for years. And then my wife's mother had an emergency, and not going to get into that, but we basically had to end up booking the next flight we could after we'd been over Asia for quite a while, and we just never got to finish our trip. But we had planned on being without a car for a number of years as we traveled. But when you come back to the U.S., man, you just can't do it. Not that that's what this video is about. It sort of was, because, you know, if you don't have as many bridges, you're not going to have as many cars in your area probably. But I thought this was really interesting, and it definitely gave me an idea of a few other things around the London area I want to check out. I want to check out the Millennium Bridge. It just looks like a really cool bridge. I've seen that bridge before in another video, but I hadn't really, looked in depth at it. Then there was the chairlifts. I thought that was really cool. I never knew you guys had chairlifts crossing the river here. Definitely want to check that out. Definitely would like to stop by there when I visit. I know he didn't make it seem like it kind of made it sound like it was kind of ridiculous to have the chairlifts. I just think it's kind of cool. I've never seen anything like chairlifts going across the river. That's pretty cool. And then there was what was it? Oh, the river itself. Absolutely. I really need to look into this river and its history. It sounds like this was part 3 of a journey exploring this river, which maybe I should look at the other parts of this series here. I'm not really sure what I need to look at. Maybe I don't know how I can find it on his videos, but I don't know. I'll see if I can find it. But guys, a few of those designs, especially that garden bridge, dude, I would love that. If I lived in the London area, especially if I lived in the area they were proposing to have that bridge, I would totally want that. It would just be such a great place to go and relax on a beautiful sunny day. You just relax on the garden bridge, man. That would be awesome. What an awesome way to cross in, nature and whatnot in the middle of the city like that. But this video really got me. I mean, I've already been excited about learning about London more, but for some reason, this video just really got me even more excited about exploring London even more. I know there's so many different cities and places to explore in the UK. It's hard sometimes to even know where to go next, but London is such a fundamental central hub to the UK. It's somewhere that I've got to explore, and it's so huge, and there's so many different things to look at within London that sometimes it's hard to actually know where to go with that journey as well. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others you think I might enjoy checking out. And don't forget to subscribe and continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys, peace.